This is the fifth state winning headlines, your media police post coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya, from the Foretold School of Government. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you may have missed this morning, but we also take a look at some of the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 17th of February, 2022, and I'm 2M.
I am Serbia.
And I am 2J. And in case you missed today's headlines, here they are. In the Daily Nation, Uhuru to endorse Raila at Sagana 3. The Standard, make or break for Raila, Ruto in BBI ruling. The Star, Ruto maintains lead, Raila gains in Central. And in the People Daily, all systems go as IEBC gets 22 billion shillings for polls. Yes. 2M, why don't you tell us about your thoughts today?
Absolutely. Now, if you thought William Ruto's derogatory comments on DRC were a Freudian slip, then think again. Ruto knew exactly what he was doing. But before we proceed, let's watch the clip.
3 billion liters. Na tuko na soko kuanzia hapa DRC, hawa watu wako na 90 million people, hawana ng'ombe moja. Hii DRC watu ya kuimba hii. Kina hii watu ya sijana kwanda bongoma nani hawa wa kuimba. Na wanafunga suruali wanafungia hapa. Hiyo watu
We hypothesize Ruto's comments were aimed at weakening Mount Kenya's largest bank, Equity Bank, and by extension, Gema Capital. Allow us to walk you through our thinking. Equity Bank is East and Central Africa's largest bank. It is also Africa's fourth largest bank. Equity's current status would never have been this big if they did not purchase Banque Commerciale de Congo, or BCDC, as it is known. BCDC was DRC's largest bank before Equity bought it. It was owned by a Belgian known as George Forrest. Anyone who mined DRC's diamonds, cobalt, gold, oil, coltan, banked with BCDC. When our very own from Muranga, James Mwangi, bought BCDC, he inherited all of George Forrest's clients.
Wow. The
BCDC transaction made Mwangi an African financial behemoth. Now, a third of Equity's group balance sheet comes from its DRC market. DRC is the fastest growing market in all of the 6 countries Equity is present. And in just 2 years, Equity DRC will be bigger than all of Equity's other markets combined. At this juncture, I must say this is not an Equity Bank commercial.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Do you have shares?
Who knows? What's my point here? We want to hypothesize that William Ruto is on a revenge mission against Equity Bank. And that's because last year, September, James Mwangi threw Ruto under the bus by denying that William Ruto once called him to ask for a 15 billion shilling loan to help an investor in Uganda. In fact, James Mwangi told us that Equity Bank Uganda could only give 2 billion shillings in loans and not the 15 billion shillings Ruto was asking for. Mwangi, in effect, called Ruto a liar. So, in order to get back at Mwangi, Ruto came up with a clever scheme to hit back. He knew Equity commands Kenya's largest presence in DRC, and if DRC was ever going to retaliate against unfriendly actions by Kenya, they would cut the cash flow. They would simply boycott Equity or shut it down. And this would hurt Equity. Now, the only way to catalyze such an action is insult the host country and its people. And that's exactly what Ruto did. He disparagingly abused the Congolese, knowing very well how they would react. And react they did by threatening to boycott Equity DRC. In sum, if the Congolese boycott Equity, it is bad for business. But even more, if Equity is hit, it means Ruto is threatened by Gema, or is not threatened by Gema Capital. We have always told you that Ruto was a boarding student in the Moi School of Politics. He had a Moi cookbook of politics hidden under his bed. If Moi collapsed Kikuyu banks to consolidate his rule in the 90s, what makes you think Ruto will spare them?
He won't. So, earlier this week, Deputy President William Ruto, yet again, decided to carry us pumpkin and tell us he only needs a renewable contract of only 5 years. This contract will be renewed based on performance. And today, I would like to tell you that he is peddling more falsehoods. How else can you explain how the same man who was just dumping and even proclaimed himself king of Mount Kenya yesterday only wants a 5-year term today? or how he suddenly went from demanding the presidency to politely asking, scratch that, begging for it. Something here doesn't add up. And so today I would like to interrogate Ruto's change in attitude. Why the sudden desperation? And which assurance do we have that when Ruto gets to office, he won't just cling to power? Ed Uravich, in his book, Lying, Cheating, Scam, quotes that every president has not only lied at some time, but needs to lie to be effective. However, he describes these presidential lies as those which are forgivable and unforgivable. Forgivable lies are those meant to keep the nation from harm. On the other hand, unforgivable lies are meant to cover up crimes, incompetence, or protect a president's political future. So, British government supplying fake news and even lying to its allies to get America involved in World War II, forgivable, because this is what helped end the war. Lyndon Johnson in the 1964 presidential campaign promising not to send any American troops to fight in Vietnam, only for him to send double the troops, unforgivable. He just wanted to win another term in office at the cost of more American lives and the war escalating further. Even more unforgivable is when President Bill Clinton lied about his sexual escapades under oath. I think now you get it. Huh? So what forgivable and unforgivable lies has William Ruto told? At this point, there are too many to count since he chronically hemorrhages lies on both debatable matters and those that are factually clear. Perhaps a better question is why Ruto may feel the need to obscure, hide, and misinform. The answer is the ICC. Remember, Ruto is a marked man. Possibly, the ICC may have even issued a sealed warrant of arrest for him. This makes his quest for the presidency a do-or-die situation. This is because the presidency will confer presidential immunity upon him according to Article 143 of our Constitution. In 2019, the ICC Appeal Chamber held that heads of state have no immunity under customary international law before international tribunals. However, the ICC judgments are only binding to countries that accept its jurisdiction. And as president, Ruto can rescind this recognition, thus protecting him further. Put simply, Ruto needs the presidency more than the presidency needs him. Without it, he is doomed. And given the incentives for holding on to power are so compelling, is it likely that he will walk away after 5 years to tend to his chickens? I'll leave that for you to answer. But to guide you, allow me to remind you of history. In 1986, after Museveni overthrew Milton Obote, Museveni promised to amend Uganda's chaotic years by just serving 2 terms to fix what Obote and Idi Amin had done to the country. That is 6 years later and 6 terms later. Where are those 2 terms he promised? How did he manage to hold on to power? Are these the lessons Ruto hoped to pick up in his frequent visits to Uganda? Or did Ruto pick up the lessons he needed under pupillage from the professor of politics himself, Daniel Moi? Let's hope we never have to find out.
Interesting. And so, if I could summarize, what point are we making in all of this? That Mr. William Ruto has an expiry date. And the only way for him to avoid this fate, as Serbia told us, is through the presidency.
Correct.
And you can see how desperate he is for it. But meanwhile, he has completely underestimated his boss.
Yes.
Now, we've said before that Uhuru is a student of history and a student of politics.
Correct.
So he knows that you should never interrupt your enemy when he's making mistakes. Instead, you should plan. And I want to explain this flight plan of Uhuru Kenyatta using an ancient Italian ritual called La Matanza.
Yes.
So La Matanza translates literally to slaughter or killing in Italian.
Correct.
And just to be clear, it's not about killing or slaughtering your opponent. It's a traditional tuna fishing technique that dates back to around 2000 BC.
Correct.
And it's not for the faint of heart. It is a messy and bloody sport. Now, during these ancient times, tuna fishing represented the main source of income for some communities along the Mediterranean. But tuna fish are incredibly heavy. They can weigh about 250 kilos. They also move incredibly fast, at almost 70 kilometers per hour.
Yes.
So the fishermen had to devise tools and techniques to catch these fish.
Yes.
So step 1, they lure them in. The fishermen redirect the tuna as they swim, bringing them closer and closer to the shore. But at this point, these large and wild tuna start to swim fast and aggressively, sensing that their atmosphere has changed and that danger is afoot.
Yes.
But in step 2, the fishermen become patient, waiting for their prey to get comfortable. They stand for hours, perfectly still, waiting so still and for so long that the fish don't even realize the hunters are still there. And it's in that moment that the fishermen strike.
Yes.
Like these fishermen, Uhuru Kenyatta is hunting.
Boom.
At the same time, William Ruto has sensed that his atmosphere has changed and that danger is afoot.
Yes.
Maybe the danger is ICC. Or maybe it lies in what the president knows. But now Uhuru is playing the patience game. He's keeping still and he is waiting.
Yes.
And he has waited patiently for so long that William Ruto has forgotten he is still there. And that is the moment when Uhuru Kenyatta will strike.
Yes, kaboom.
So,
Yes.
in under a week, the NDCs for both Jubilee and ODM are going to be taking place.
Yes.
And it's our hypothesis that this 2-day affair will go as follows. Day 1, housekeeping. Uhuru Kenyatta will use this day to clean house, and he will do so using the law.
Yes.
Here, the real purpose of the Azimio bill will be revealed.
Yes.
If you remember, when Isaac Mwaura was purged from Jubilee last year, the only reason he was able to sneak back in was because of process. Now, all yellow-wearing defectors will be given an ultimatum: get out or get in line. Following this, during day 2, a resolution will be proposed for Jubilee to enter into a coalition agreement with Azimio. Done deal. As 2M likes to say, kalas.
Kalas.
Finito.
Finito.
And so the lesson from the La Matanza applies to fishing and politics alike.
Yes.
If you want to catch your prey, lure them into a false sense of security. Stay patient. And once they get comfortable, strike. So, after all of that, we have a 3-part criteria that we use to discuss our headlines. We ask ourselves, are they topical or speculative, repetitive or groundbreaking, or finally thoughtful or just plain lazy? I would like to suggest that we toss the People Daily.
Yes.
All systems go as IBC gets 22 billion for polls. I think that's just reporting. We know that they were going to get the money.
Absolutely.
Number 2, make or break for Raila, Ruto and BBI hearing.
Speculative.
Speculative. We have to
You
wait.
know,
So we toss that as well.
Vanessa.
We're left with the Star. Ruto maintains lead. Raila gains in Central.
Through
I would like to ask Radio Africa to share with us and the public their methodology. How do you arrive at these numbers? I think
Yeah, you cannot call people all the time, and it's something called sampling.
exactly.
You cannot call people and ask, hey, you, who are you going to vote? The only variable, the only thing that exists that you can use as an informed source
Yes.
to
Is the
judge
IBC
a voter register.
voter register?
That's the only thing you can use. Short of that, you are just groping
Exactly.
the
You're
dark.
practicing funny scientific methods.
Yeah.
I guess that leaves us with the Daily Nation. Uhuru to endorse Raila at Sagana 3. And I think that'll just be the step 1 to
Yes.
the NDC that we'll be seeing next week.
Absolutely.
So on that note, the Daily Nation gives us our winning headline.
Absolutely.
On to the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country, where we also have a 3-part criteria. We ask ourselves, are the cartoons humorous or dry, satirical or pessimistic, and finally effective or just plain lazy? I think we should begin with the Star, as it's
Star.
quite topical, right?
Absolutely. Also, there is a caricature of William Ruto lying in bed, and he's just seen a ghost. The ghost is ICC. I don't know whether he's having a nightmare.
It must be a nightmare.
It must be a nightmare. But next to his bed is also the ng'ombe ghost. You know.
Also cows.
You know, remember when he told them in DRC hakuna ng'ombe hata moja? That has come to haunt him. And I just saw them, all of them today trooping to the DRC embassy to say pole. And damage has been done already.
What a mess. Yeah, and I like your hypothesis that this was all thought through.
It's all thought through by him.
Yeah. All right, I think we should park the Star. I quite like that one. And take a look at the Daily Nation.
Okay, I'll explain that one. So caricatures of Chebukati, I think he's leaning on the door, actually barricading the door to the IBC server room. So, and he's asking, I think he's asking the 4 guys, Orengo, Sabina Chege, Olekina, and Otiende Amolo, what rigged the elections. I don't like this cartoon. It's very dry. It's not humorous.
Yeah.
It's just descriptive.
It is descriptive. I completely agree. And I think it would also be incorrect of us to describe something that is currently being discussed in the IBC tribunal, right? So I would suggest that we toss
Absolutely.
the Daily Nation.
Absolutely.
All right, finally, we look at the Standard. In the Standard, we have Gamzo again. And here we have a cartoon that pays homage to Dr. Joe Muriuki, the first Kenyan to publicly disclose his HIV positive status. And I think we all know that he passed away, I think yesterday or the day before, after battling HIV for 30 years. I think that he's a testimony to the fact that good health care can get you good care, right? And I think one important fact is that Kenya has reduced the epidemic of HIV/AIDS in the country. So I think that's something to be celebrated. On that note, do we have a winning cartoon?
Ozone, the star.
Star. I agree.
Of
The
course.
ghost of ICC that he never thought would come back again.
Oh, absolutely.
And the thing about ghosts, they can sometimes, come back and be reality.
Yes.
It may not just be a ghost alone.
Can I maybe deja vu?
Exactly, I think it can. All right, so on that note, we have a winning headline from the Daily Nation and a winning cartoon from the Star. And I want to leave you with a quote about politicians and statesmen. So a politician thinks of the next election. A statesman thinks of the next generation. The art of statesmanship is to foresee the inevitable and to expedite its occurrence. That is, to make it happen even faster. So this ICC ghost may not be a ghost for much longer, right?
Yeah, it also tells you Ruto is no statesman.
Indeed, right? So thank you for joining us today for Winning Headlines. Don't forget to catch us on your TV screens. We're on Prime Free to Air, GoTV, and Star Times. You can also find us on YouTube. Do not forget to subscribe. Have a great evening, and we will see you tomorrow.